Good morning, my dear friends. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back. I've got my coffee. I'm a little bit groggy, but hey, we're gonna do a really quick candle review here from Bath and Body Works. And it's not a new candle, but it was a new candle to me because I've never burnt it before. And the candle in question is this one, Surf Shop, right here. And I made fun of the packaging initially. It's a little on the juvenile side. If you've got 5-year-olds or 6-year-olds at home, I think you're going to be real happy with this particular collection. But it's grown on me. It's not bad. Even the graphics here are not bad. And you don't appreciate this when the wax is still in the candle jar, but once you burn it, you can kind of see in the wraparound, they've got like the aquatic waves over and under, and it's really kind of nice. It burns nice. It's actually nicer than you would think. And I do think that it's totally fine, if not good, to have kind of generic vacation vibes, you know, for the kids kind of packaging for summer. If you're not going to do it at any other time, it really makes sense for summer. So anyway, Surf Shop. Surf Shop. So the scent notes here are oceanside birch, sparkling waves, and summer spruce. And on paper, I thought this was going to be a heavy men's cologne. I just did, because birch leans. Birch is one of those tree notes that can be real intense. I mean, think of it being kind of like the mahogany note. Birch is often used in conjunction with tanning leather because it actually does sometimes have like a real funky, like leather-like vibe to it. So when you see birch, that's often like a cologne kind of wood for sure. And then you have sparkling waves in oceanside and summer spruce. So then you have birch and spruce with a lot of aquatic stuff. But to my mind, especially with the sparkling waves, I'm thinking bergamot on top. And then you have some sort of generic spruce, you know, a woodiness and a heavy musk. That is what I thought. And especially given that it was a surf shop, I just was like, this is going to go masculine. It's going to go masculine in the same way that like a tobacco shop would or something like that. Yeah. And the aquatic notes are going to be kind of canned and stale, like the ocean candle or something like that, or the ocean cologne for Bath and Body Works. What a surprise. This candle is surprisingly sophisticated, nuanced, balanced, and refreshing and beautiful, and it does not lean overtly masculine at all. Now, caveats apply here because many of you guys are you've been buying Bath and Body Works candles for a long time, and in some ways, you know more about what's been on the floor in the last few years than I have. And by few years, I mean going back 6 years, 7 years, that kind of a thing. So, a couple of you, and I want to shout you out. Miss Blue Sea, and I don't know what your given name is. Miss Blue Sea said that this candle originally came out in 2021 in a summer collection with ice cream bar and kiwi starfruit cooler. And she does think, however, that this is possibly a different iteration than the one that came out in 2021. Because as we're going to talk about, this candle is actually very fruit forward. And fruit is not listed on the bottom. It was never listed originally. And to her nose, it does smell fruitier and different, sweeter than it did in 2021. Which would make sense because certainly the list notes did not anticipate for me what it was that I was going to smell. Then also somebody, and I think it might be Bree, but I'm not sure. Bree thought that it came out a year previous in 2020 with a collection of sandcastles and sunshine, which sounds like an amazing candle that I'm not aware of. Anyway, could have come out 21 or 20, something like that. It's kind of recurred a few times, but there is a little bit of confusion as to whether or not this might be a tweaked formula or a tweaked fragrance. I can't remember if initially, so this was one of those weird collections on the website where like when it originally dropped to the website, it indicated that a couple of them were quote unquote new fragrances. And I think the new fragrances were this one, and if I'm not mistaken, raspberry rosé, maybe? I'm not really sure. Which everybody thinks is a repackage of a raspberry mimosa. But then after 24 hours, the website just generically moved them all to like new collection or, you know, new in the store, whatever else their other label is, and took away the indications of which ones were actually new fragrances. If I'm not mistaken, though, in that fleeting 24 hours, I think it did say new fragrance. And I can't speak to raspberry mimosa. I can't speak to how that smells. But for me, I don't know. For me, I feel as though I've never smelled this raspberry scent before. It's, again, surprisingly sophisticated and nuanced, this raspberry rosé. Usually the raspberry scents that I get from Bath & Body Works do not quite smell like this. So I guess if I had to conjecture, but this would just be a very conjecture-y conjecture, if you know what I mean. I wonder if they did tweak both of these fragrances, that they did come out in original iterations several years ago, perhaps even recurring several years ago, and in fact tweaked them for this season, which is what triggered that 24-hour, this is a new fragrance. I'm not really sure. But I'll tell you what, this candle is fruit forward. If I may, it's a little bit more, it's less nuanced than like a Harry Slatkin fruity candle. So Harry Slatkin has mastered the art of presenting us a white floral, for instance, with a fruity finish, yeah? Or anything with a fruity finish. Sometimes he does do straight up fruit candles, but often it's that fruity finish, right? This is in that genre in that it's an aquatic candle that goes significantly fruity. I would say it's more than just a fruity finish here, though. Like I said, it's fruit forward. I would say that the fruit in this candle is at least 40%. At least 40%, maybe even a 50%. Then you have an aquatic note, which runs maybe 30%, something like that. And then you have the spruce / birch. And I would say definitely I think it's half and half, spruce and birch. So it does have a very nice tree component here. It doesn't go full board Christmas tree. And I think it's partly because it's got the birch in there too. So that you've got this strong hewn wood kind of quality to it and keeps it from being like an evergreen Christmas tree kind of situation. But I would say that on cold, that note, that tree-ish kind of note, accounts for like 20%, something like that. It's there, and because it's austere, and because tree notes generally come across pretty well on cold and amplified, burned, you can definitely smell it. But I would say, like I said, a good 40% of what smells to me like a melon note, possibly. Or even something like, I think it's an accord. I don't think it's a straight up melon. I think it might be a melon with a peach or with a pear, something like that. Yeah. It's beautiful though, and you know why I appreciate this is it does not have, despite the note here of sparkling, this candle is not sparkling, and I am so here for that. I think that's part of the reason I love this rosé too, because this rosé does not have any effervescence in it, which is what is making me think that it is a truly tweaked candle, and they took the sparkling nature out of both this and this. If there was originally a sparkling, effervescent, zesty kind of pop for both of them, it has been taken out. And if you've been on my channel for any amount of time, you know that that is not my favorite note from Bath & Body Works. I do not like their effervescent, thing, the champagne toast vibe, or sometimes in their citrus candles, they'll reach for that sparkling thing. It's a no for me. It always smells a bit synthetic and cheap to me. And I'm just not a champagne girl. I'm not gonna lie to you. I like basier candles. I like more authentic leaning kind of candles. I don't even like drinking carbonated beverages. It's just not me at all. This raspberry mimosa has no effervescence in it, in a candle that you would expect effervescence in, because it's a rosé. And as you can tell, this beverage here is quite carbonated. I don't know if you can see those bubbles. Yeah. It's not like a rosé, like a wine. It's like a rosé, like a spritz, right? But it doesn't smell like that. It really doesn't. No effervescence at all. And it's so interesting because this is a candle, even despite the packaging, this is a candle that would 100%, it just seems like it is made for Bath & Body Works to add that effervescence on top. So it almost smells, if it wasn't so loud and so like finished and refined, I actually would say that it would almost smell like it was an unfinished candle, like they just didn't add the effervescence and it's coming later or something like that. No effervescence here. Is there a citrus? It might be. I mean, the fruit component, like I said, I think it's a fruit component that leans aquatic, which is what is making me think melon here. Although it could just be that it's a fruit combined with an aquatic note to make the fruit smell aquatic. Like I said, could be a pear, could be even a peach or a apricot. It's real nice though. I mean, it doesn't give away, or it doesn't fly into a realm where the aquatic is entirely lost, and therefore it stays put as like a really beautiful continuous conceptual, keeps it in that aquatic kind of realm, but like I said, very fruity on top. And then the spruce and the birch ground the fragrance, ground it, give it some depth, give it some gravitas on the bottom. But again, it's a beautiful spruce and birch. It's not a synthetic, it's not a cologne kind of spruce or birch. I mean, it's just a spruce and a birch. And no, they don't come across with enough individuation in order for it to really be like a true spruce candle, or for you to be able to smell how authentic it is, how fresh, etc. Because it's definitely like a third note here. But it's there, and I have to say that when you burn it, it definitely like comes forward. It comes forward for sure. You get the fruit, the fruity aquatic, and then you have the spruce. And the spruce grounds the fragrance when it is burned, just like it grounds it when it is smelled on cold. It pretty much exactly what you smell on cold is what you get once it's burned, which I love. I think it's fantastic. This is kind of a mid-range candle. Because it doesn't have the effervescence on top, it doesn't go into that really high range. But there's not enough spruce and base. And although there is probably some degree of musk here, it's not a real musk heavy candle. And so it kind of sits up a little bit higher than you would expect a masculine cologne with spruce, with birch, with cologne to sit. It sits up a little bit higher. So it's just a kind of really nice mid-range candle. For that reason, I felt as though sometimes I kind of went nose blind to it a little bit, because it's only hitting at one range and it's kind of a soft fragrance. It's a little on the thin side, and that can be the case, by the way, for a lot of aquatic fragrances. Aquatic fragrances can sometimes be a little on the light and thin side, especially if they're not terribly synthetic. They're fairly authentic in that aquatic note. They kind of melt into your environment in a really beautiful way, kind of like a spa-like way. There is something very pleasing about a beautiful aquatic done well. It is atmospheric, and like I said, if it's a light touch and it's a fairly authentic aquatic note, it's one that you start to not notice until you like come into the room or move out of the space, etc. So for me, did go a little nose blind to it. However, in the moments where I did go a little bit nose blind to it, I often did pick up a little twitch of like that spruce from time to time. So it is a very welcome note. If it was a bit bassier, it may have had a bigger presence. But I kind of appreciate that it's not a bassy candle. I kind of appreciate that it's not a cliche. You know what I mean? And especially from Bath & Body Works, where we just kind of expect a certain formulaic cliche from them when they reach for specific fragrance notes. You know what I mean? And then you look at the packaging on top of it, you know, you're just expecting something that's like for the children. But, you know, we're all children in the summer or something like that. Surprisingly great fragrance. And it could be marketed in a million different ways. If in fact this is a new iteration of Surf Shop, this is a candle that I want to see repackaged as many different things. It really deserves, it's a versatile enough candle with the fruitiness, with the aquaticness, and with that touch of spruce that does not lean holiday, but does not necessarily lean masculine either. I mean, this is kind of an all-season candle. It's really, really beautiful. It does not smell cool weather, but I can't say that it necessarily smells warm weather either. It's just a beautiful, beautiful candle that is balanced beautifully in that mid-range. So like I said, they could market this in a lot of different ways. Could they bring it out at the holiday season given that 20% of spruce? Maybe, but I think that people would smell it and say this is more of an aquatic fruit candle than it is a spruce candle. And because it's mixed with the birch, I just don't think there's enough of like a holiday or even cold weather note there. The aquatic with the melons does seem not particularly cool weather. I've talked about this candle a lot, but Outdoor Fellow, who is kind of a luxury, it's a luxury candle brand, they did a limited edition Maui candle from Hawaii. Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed. I need to get another one of those candles. It had an amazing spruce note, more aggressive than this one, more robust, a beautiful spruce note with pineapple. And it was like a revelation. I think it's the only pineapple candle I have ever like really loved, and in this case obsessed over. And the spruce and the pine, or if you will, pine and pineapple, the combination was amazing. And with that unexpected fruit, the spruce went in a completely different direction. Like you just did not think of it as a cold weather kind of candle. Often we do with spruces because spruces continue to flourish at moments of the year when nothing else is. And I think that's the reason why we kind of associate it with a certain period of time where like there's nothing else brooding. This is the season for spruce, right? But the reality of it is spruces are year round. They flourish at all times. So spruces don't go away in the summertime. And I said this when Bath & Body Works came out with that sea salt and was it sea salt and spruce? Sea salt and something or other. Last summer, the summer before that, right? It was a spruce or pine with a strong aquatic salt briny note that I thought was very like Pacific Northwest, for instance. And I said at that time, I really think there should be more done with the evergreens at other seasons than at Christmas time, right? This goes there. I would say because the fruit and melon component with the aquatic takes up so much of this candle, this is not a masculine candle. It's really not. Now, one that is actually similar to it and came out at the same time, this Sea Salt and Sails, this actually is similar in that it does have some spruce notes, louder spruce notes, I think, and has a vague fruitiness to it, just real vague. It's almost like the same fruitiness as this, but they just kind of inverted the emphasis or the percentages, right? And then this one has more musk in it. And if you look at the notes, ocean sea spray, aloe vera nectar. Do you see that? Nectar. That's what's here. And that's why it kind of smells like melon, possibly apricot, peach, pear, something like that. Nectar smells about right to me, right? It's a nectarous kind of vibe. But whereas in here, it's about 40%, in here, it's about like 15%, 20%, something like that. Like I said, it just kind of inverts the formula of this one and then adds a lot of musk on the bottom so that this one does lean more masculine. Yeah. So actually these are really similar candles. If you prefer a basier candle and one that has that more like traditional masculine vibe without going full board cologne, then I would say Sea Salt and Sails. However, if you like a lighter touch or you're not really a masculine fan, definitely try this out. It's got that nectarous fruit with a beautiful aquatic and then just a little bit of spruce on the bottom, very little musk, very mid-range. I'm super happy with this candle. In fact, so happy that I just repurchased it when they had the online extra 25% off, free shipping for $50. I mean, please, when they do that, it's like, where do I sign? Totally. Because if they're going to give you free shipping for $50 and an extra 25%, that basket will fill up real fast. And I hate paying shipping. So I actually bought a ton more scent beads. I'll do a video on the scent beads soon. And this is the lone candle that I bought, Surf Shop. And I'll tell you why. It's because within this last week, this little collection with Raspberry Rosé and Surf Shop has gone into the semi-annual sale. Now, these candles with the rattan lids have not yet gone for semi-annual. Now, they might toward the end of the month. I'm not really sure. But right now, they are not included in semi-annual. However, these folks did drop this week to semi-annual. So now they are $10.95, this entire collection, okay? I think Summer Boardwalk is in it. Now, caveats apply, and the caveat is, in my local store, most of these are sold out. And I noticed that in other stores too. This was a popular collection for a whole host of reasons. And it went fast. So I bought this online because it was still available online, and I'll link the information down below. But my store is sold out of this particular one. So if you want Surf Shop or Raspberry Rosé or Summer Boardwalk, although I don't know that you'll get Summer Boardwalk at $10.95 at this juncture, head to your store ASAP. See if you've got it on the floor. And if you have never tried Surf Shop, this might be a great moment to do that. By the way, I didn't mention Strength and Throw. So actually, I kept this one here in the open concept for most of its existence, which is a really great sign. I would say that in the open concept, it kind of did between a 6.5 and a 7, somewhere in there. And like I said, it is a little on the thin side, but with the spruce, especially when I initially would light it up, you could definitely smell it starting to pour into your space. So it wasn't bad in an open concept. I moved it to the back bedroom because down toward the end, I was getting a little bit less from it. And I also wanted to see how it would do in a more closed concept. In the closed concept, you know, it definitely got up to a 7. I don't know if it got up a whole lot more than that. And again, a lot of that has to do with the thinness of the fragrance. I did not have to move it to the guest bathroom. So really a very decent candle. Could it be a little bit louder? Yes, but it might be at the expense of authenticity. And given the fact that there's no effervescence in this candle, and it's not a bassy candle, and it's got a lot of aquatic kind of notes that are fairly authentic, I am not at all surprised that it kind of gets into that 6.5 to 7 range, and I'm really happy with a 6.5 to 7. So there you go. I fully expect Raspberry Rosé to be louder than that. I haven't burned it yet. This is like a July burn for sure, so we're coming right up on it. Raspberry Rosé. And of course, the Aruba Melon Candle from Yankee Candle. And I haven't burned Sea Salt and Sails yet, so I can't really speak to it. I think I'll like it, but I'll tell you what, this one got under my skin. It just did. Yeah, what can I say? And it can and should be repackaged as a million other things, for sure. I mean, this is one of those ones too, where sea salt and spruce. But they had one that was super similar to that, and it doesn't say anything about the fruit component. And I think there's a good fruit component here. So I think that at the very least, the list notes going forward need to indicate that. If not, then name the title. That's what I've got for you, my friends. I love it. 2 thumbs up to Bath & Body Works. And if it's a retweaked fragrance, I'm going to assume it's a better version. It's really lovely and kind of unexpected. Yeah. I'll catch you guys in the next one.